Welcome back to the OMB Law Board. I'm Simon Bennett, and thanks for joining us again. Today, I've got Alexander Wood with us. Now, Alex is an associate in our body corporate team, and with the booming strata industry and the trend for community living, Alex is going to talk to us about some of the really pertinent issues that we're finding in strata at the moment. So, Alex, really appreciate you coming along today, and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks for having me.
So strata, community living, it's exploding.
It is in a big way. I mean, all you have to do is look at some statistics regarding strata. In 2016, it was 1 in 10 Australians living in strata. 2021, 1 in 6. So we're due for another census in a year. It'll definitely be interesting to see what those statistics look like and how much that's growing. Some of the large groups that we see are the first home buyers, your sort of younger people, couples, professionals, and also your downsizers and your retirees.
Well, there's an affordability issue too. I mean, there's less, particularly in southeast Queensland, there's less freehold land developments going on. There's more strata buildings being done. We can get greater population in smaller areas and affordability.
Yeah, definitely. It's certainly the way of the future. I mean, we're seeing a lot of big developments. The fastest growing area is your large schemes. So we're talking about your high rises, your multi-use layered schemes, your big developments. So they all have their unique challenges, and more people are going to be living in those in the future.
So as more people move toward these community living arrangements, we've talked about some of the benefits and some of the reasons why people are going to them. But we've got this conundrum, if you like, where we've got people living together and they have to abide by a set of rules. So give me some of the common examples of issues you're seeing with community and strata living.
Well, one of the issues that we see a lot at the moment is Airbnbs. So you have generally your short-term letting, which is your sub 3 months, generally people on holiday or just shorter term rentals. Airbnb has become a big segment of that. It's a growing segment. And one of the issues and one of the questions that we get asked quite frequently by body corporate committees is, can we restrict that? Can we stop people from the short-term letting? The short answer to that is no. Ultimately, community living is an exercise of compromise, and people need to lower, to a degree, their expectations when we're talking about who you're living with and who you're living around. In terms of short-term letting and those Airbnb type setups, it's a council issue. It's not a body corporate issue. And often, unfortunately for our committees, it's not something that they necessarily have a say in. It can be disruptive. There are ways that you can regulate it to try and limit that disruption, but ultimately we can't really look at just banning it outright. So
to be clear on that, if the original approval allowed short-term letting and I own a unit in the building, the body corporate cannot stop me from Airbnb my apartment.
That's right.
That's good news for me. Maybe not so good news for the building.
Well, I mean, the issues that you have is, of course, you've got these transient groups that are in and out. It might be every few days they're changing over. They're not so interested in how the common property is being kept or trying to keep noise low. So I can understand why people want to try to limit that. But again, it's about compromise and it's about finding a balance.
Okay, but can the body corporate then restrict the behaviour of the Airbnb guests? So, for example, the no party policies, the no loud noise policies, etc., etc.
They can within reason. In terms of things like no parties, I mean, we look at bylaws which restrict the use of certain areas of common property. So if you've got a pool area, barbecue area, like many schemes do, you can set hours on when those are open, when people can use them, just general bylaws about disruptiveness. It's difficult when we talk about enforcement of those bylaws because, you know, how do you really enforce it against someone who's only there for a few days and once they're gone, it's not necessarily something that's really going to be fruitful. if you're trying to chase them up for contravening a bylaw.
And are we enforcing the bylaws against the owner, not the Airbnb guest?
Well, that's where it gets a bit difficult. So generally, if you the way that we look at it, to strip it back, is we look at how can you effectively regulate it. So we put requirements on the owner to do certain things to try to limit that risk of disruptiveness. So giving copies of the bylaws to the tenants, giving the details of the tenants to the body corporate committee, and basically making it so that if they haven't done that, it's a breach on their behalf. Otherwise, if we don't have those regulatory bylaws in place, it's going to be a breach by the person staying there. And you're not really going to have much luck trying to chase them up for being too noisy when they're already back home, holiday's over, and that's sort of the end of it, and it's just the next person.
Understand. What other issues are you seeing?
Parking's a big one. A lot of the development processes have changed where we've got better public transport on the Gold Coast, and we look at the tram corridor. A lot of schemes are being built with less parking, and so we're getting frequent complaints about people parking in visitor spots or just parking, making up their own spots. Obviously, it's an issue where you have people who want to visit, they've got nowhere to park. You even see on the more extreme end where people block places for emergency services, so an ambulance can't get in, or a fire truck, or things like that. So it's very much a hot button issue. We see it all the time, and it's one that people get very passionate about too. Obviously, it's an inconvenience if you don't have somewhere to park your car. When we talk about solutions for that, I mean, for the body corporate, perhaps there's some kind of option for trying to turn some of that visitor parking into permanent parking, or trying to develop unused parts of the scheme into parking. That's not always easy, and generally it's going to require development approvals. On the other hand, for your owners, the most important thing is, before you buy, to avoid this issue, you need to make sure that it's actually suitable for your needs. So if you've got 2 cars and it's only got 1 car spot, is there a private car park that you can pay for? Or can you look at renting a spot from a neighbour that doesn't use it? Or is there street parking?
And what about enforcement of parking by the body corporate? Can they put stickers on your car? Can they tow your car?
Yeah.
What sort of remedies are available to, the body's corporate?
Towing is easier now. They changed the act that governs most of our body corporates in May of last year. So towing isn't as difficult as it used to be. It's still a bit of a process. Putting notices on the cars. I mean, you don't have the same power to issue fines generally as you would, for example, the council can issue parking fines. As a body corporate, you're very restricted in what you can do, but it's about just taking the proper steps and showing that you want to enforce it. Otherwise, if you don't take any action, people will just keep doing it.
Okay, and one of the other ones that I think is a hot topic for you guys is maintenance.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, maintenance, it's a major issue at the moment. So many of these buildings that have been around for decades. And I suppose what the committees are generally trying to do, and it's admirable in a way, but they're trying to keep the levies low. And that's all well and good as long as it's not at the expense of the building, because we're seeing a lot of buildings now where that kind of long-term attitude is now causing maintenance issues, serious maintenance issues that require major spending. And the last thing someone wants to be hit with is a 20 grand bill for a special levy.
Yep.
Because massive parts of the building are unsafe and need urgent replacement or repair. And the issue that we get is you've got these buildings worth tens, hundreds of millions of dollars being managed by volunteer committees. And that's where we as professional advisors are very useful, because we can guide those committees who might not necessarily have the expertise and sort of push them in the right direction, explain why sometimes you do need to incur those costs, because a stitch in time saves 9, as the saying goes. It's better to spend now than spend 5-10 times as much because you didn't take action.
It's an interesting concept. You might be a volunteer, but could you be personally liable for failing to undertake your obligations as a member of the body corporate?
There is potential for personal liability under the Act. Committee members are protected as long as they act within the bounds of their role being committee members. If they're following professional advice, generally that's quite a good protection
Yep.
for a committee. But if we've got committee members who are going out doing things improperly, not following the proper processes, ignoring advice, then potentially. But generally, we don't look at that as, I suppose, the first port of call.
Yeah.
We look at other things first.
I think the takeaway, however, is you are a volunteer. You are the guardian of a substantial asset, tens or hundreds of $1 million asset, and you should engage qualified, expert legal advice to guide you and assist you on that journey on things that you generally, may not be qualified otherwise to deal with, and get some assistance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't tend to see schemes that regret getting the proper advice, and we certainly see a lot that wish that they had. So, yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So I think any of our listeners who are on body corporate committees should look to, engage with Alex and the team in the body corporate department at OMB if they need guidance, if they need assistance to help them comply with their obligations and duties under the body corporate scheme. Alex, thank you so much for coming in today. It's been really informative and pointing our attention to some of the really hot topic issues that Strata Living is giving us.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks for having me.
And if there are extra areas or even more questions on some of these areas that Alex has raised today, please feel free to drop us a line or contact Alex and the team in the body corporate department.